Hola, hola a todas las que nos estén escuchando. Buenos días, tardes, noches. No importa de qué parte del mundo nos estén escuchando, son bienvenidas a Ellas, un podcast en donde conocemos la historia de mujeres y aprendemos de ellas. Mi nombre es Nat Rosales y es un gusto el día de hoy estar aquí con ustedes, recordando que pueden sintonizarnos en vivo o ver la repetición de este episodio a través de Facebook y YouTube por Adasa Devocionales. No nada más ver las repeticiones de este episodio, sino de más episodios y de otros podcasts y programas que tenemos en Adasa Devocionales. Si también tienen alguna pregunta o algún comentario para nuestra invitada de hoy, no duden en escribirla en la cajita de comentarios y la estaremos leyendo en un ratito más, casi al final del programa. Y bueno, sin más que decir, vamos a darle la bienvenida a nuestra invitada de hoy. Ella nos acompaña desde Estados Unidos, del estado de Illinois, así que vamos a darle la bienvenida. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, fine, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely, for sure. Should I introduce myself then?
Yes, please.
Okay. My name is Victoria Taft, and I live in Illinois. Right now, I'm currently at the library because I wanted somewhere quiet with good internet. So I'm in one of their study rooms. And I am a first and second grade teacher for a private Christian school that's affiliated with my church. So it's like my church school. And it's actually the school that I went to when I was younger. And I also work in the bus ministry. My dad is the bus pastor. I have a big heart for the bus ministry. That's kind of like my main church thing. And then I just help out at the church whenever I can.
Okay, perfect. So, bueno, mi nombre es Victoria Taft. Bueno, estoy
Sorry
en el
for not
estado
repeating
de
it.
Illinois. No, it's fine, don't worry, don't worry. En estos momentos soy maestra, estudié para ser maestra y también trabajo en las rutas o en el ministerio de las rutas de la iglesia. Mi papá es el que se encarga de eso, entonces eso es como lo que más hago dentro de la iglesia. Y bueno, también ayudo en cosas que que sucedan o que en donde pueda ayudar dentro de la iglesia. Okay, so it's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much for accepting the invitation. So, right now, it's really curious to know how you ended being a teacher. But why, what do you think if we start from the beginning, from your childhood? So let me translate it in Spanish so we can start.
Okay.
Muy bien, da mucha curiosidad saber cómo es que terminó siendo maestra, pero antes de saber esa parte de la historia, ¿qué te parece si vamos desde el principio de tu historia, tu infancia?
Um, I actually grew up in a Christian home.
Yo crecí en un hogar cristiano.
My mom was a bus kid, and she started going to Northwest when she was about 18 or so. And my dad was actually a bus worker. So,
Ok, mi mamá empezó a ir a la iglesia como a los 18 y mi papá era a bus worker, you told me, or a church worker.
a church worker. So he was saved out of the Marines, and so he was. They met after my mom had been coming for a while, and she became a bus worker as well. So they met through the bus ministry.
Ok, mi papá trabajaba en la iglesia y mi mamá y mi papá se conocieron cuando estaban trabajando en el Ministerio de las Rutas o de los autobuses.
See, so they both worked in the bus ministry, and they eventually met through that, and then they got married, and then they had us. So we grew up in a Christian home, but they didn't grow up in a Christian home.
Ok, mis papás se conocieron en el Ministerio de Rutas y después se casaron y después nos tuvieron a nosotros. Yo entonces crecí en un hogar cristiano, pero ellos no crecieron en un hogar cristiano.
I grew up in a home where they were very fair, and I was corrected how you were supposed to. So it was very easy for me when it came time for me to be saved to accept Christ.
Ok, yo crecí en un hogar cristiano, en un hogar muy justo y no fue difícil para mí aceptar a Cristo en mi corazón cuando llegó el tiempo. So, can you tell us uh, how did you accept Christ as your Savior?
I was 7 years old, and I don't remember ever before then having very many spiritual moments in my life as far as thinking of salvation.
Y, yo tenía más o menos 7 años y no recuerdo haber tenido demasiadas experiencias espirituales, además de la salvación.
I knew how to go to heaven, and I knew that Christians who accepted Christ went to heaven. I just didn't realize that
Yo,
I wasn't.
ok, yo sabía cómo ir al cielo y yo sabía que los cristianos que aceptaban a Jesús iban al cielo, pero yo no sabía que you didn't know that you need to ask, right?
No, I did know that I needed to ask Christ. I just didn't quite, it never clicked that I hadn't done that.
Ok, yo sabía que tenía que aceptar a Cristo como mi Salvador, pero nunca me hizo ese clic de que ya lo había hecho.
So basically, I just didn't have any conviction yet, if that makes sense.
Entonces, básicamente no tenía ninguna convicción.
But when I was 7 years old, um, Brother Phil Kidd actually preached a revival at my church.
Y cuando tenía 7 años, el hermano
Yeah,
Brother
Brother
what?
Phil Kidd.
Phil Kidd predicó en mi iglesia
And he preached about hell. And that was the kind of the first time I ever remember feeling conviction.
y predicó acerca del infierno y esa fue la primera vez que empecé a sentir convicción.
Now, I came from a home that taught biblical correction. So I was corrected well, I was spanked, and all those good things.
Ok, yo vengo de un hogar en donde había corrección, entonces a mí me disciplinaban y me corregían y todas esas cosas.
And so I wasn't used to living with guilt on my life.
Entonces,
Oh, go ahead.
ok, y no estaba acostumbrada a vivir con culpa en mi vida.
When I would do wrong, my parents would correct me, and then the guilt would be gone. So it made things better.
Cuando yo hacía algo malo, mis papás me corregían y ya la culpa se me iba. Entonces era más o menos así.
So this was the first time I felt guilt that I couldn't get rid of, and it was intense for me.
Y esta fue la primera vez que sentí una culpa de la cual no me podía deshacer. Y esto fue muy intenso para mí.
so I remember realizing for the first time that I was going to hell.
Y me acuerdo darme cuenta que iba a ir por primera vez darme cuenta que iba a ir al infierno.
So my parents weren't actually sitting with us because they were serving in ministry. So I was actually sitting next to my sister Brittany.
Y your parents were not sitting with you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mis papás no estaban sentados con nosotros porque mis papás servían en el ministerio, entonces yo estaba sentada con mi hermana Brittany
So I decided I was going to wait to talk to my parents later.
y decidí que me iba a esperar para hablar con mis papás después.
But on our car ride home, my dad decided to stop and get gas. And I was like, I can't wait any longer.
Y cuando íbamos a casa, mi papá decidió detenerse por gasolina y dije, ya no puedo para esperarme más.
So at the gas station by my house, I started crying and I told my dad, Dad, I'm not saved.
Y en la gasolinería cerca de nuestra casa, recuerdo empezar a llorar y decirle a mi papá, papá, no soy salva.
And I didn't know it at the time, but my sister was also under major conviction as well that she wasn't saved.
Y yo no sabía eso en ese momento, pero mi hermana también estaba teniendo esa convicción de que ella no era salva.
So she begins to say, Dad, I'm not saved either.
Y ella empezó a decir, papá, yo tampoco soy salva.
So my dad's like, oh, okay, well, we can take care of this now.
Y mi papá dijo, ah, bueno, podemos ocuparnos de esto en este momento.
So we already knew how to be saved, but he led us through everything. And my sister and I accepted Christ right there at the gas station.
Y ya sabíamos cómo hacerlo, pero mi papá nos guió y ese día mi hermana y yo fuimos salvas en la gasolinería. Wow, that's so great. You were 7 years old, right?
Yes.
So, what happened after you were saved? Did something change? And then, teenage, how was your teenager era?
Okay. I wouldn't say that there was a dramatic change as far as my behavior. I was always a very tender soul.
Ok, después de ser salva, no puedo decir que hubo un gran cambio. Yo normal en mi comportamiento, yo normalmente tenía pues, un alma tierna.
But I will say that is the first time I ever remember having any spiritual awareness, like as far as God, you know, watching me and conviction and a walk with the Holy Spirit. That was the first time. And it continued after that. I would say that was the biggest thing. I started having a relationship with Christ.
Pero una de las cosas más importantes y lo que sí puedo decir es que empecé a estar consciente de la espiritualidad y de tener una relación con Dios y de saber que Dios me estaba viendo. Entonces empecé a tener una relación con Dios.
Through my teenage years, I went to a Christian school. Um, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Ah, durante mi adolescencia yo fui a una escuela cristiana.
I wouldn't say that I really had an amazing walk with God as I should have until it started becoming more important to me.
No voy a decir que tuve una gran relación con Dios como la debería de haber tenido hasta que fue realmente importante para mí.
And I can't pick out a major point in my teenage years where I was like, this is a huge pivotal point for me.
Ok, y no puedo escoger un punto en donde diría, este fue un punto crítico para mí,
But I will say that I was put in a very great environment, and there were just a lot of little moments that helped make me through.
y solamente puedo decir que yo estaba en un gran ambiente y fueron los pequeños momentos los que me ayudaron a seguir adelante.
There were a lot of youth conferences that I went to. I never missed any of the church activities.
Había conferencias de jóvenes a las que iba y nunca me perdía de ninguna actividad de la iglesia.
We went to 3 services a week: Sunday morning, Sunday night, and Wednesday night.
Nosotros íbamos a 3 servicios cada semana, los domingos en la mañana, los domingos en la tarde y los miércoles.
And my parents just made sure I was at everything, which made it easy for me to constantly be making good decisions. I was constantly making decisions to get things right.
Y pues mis papás se esmeraron en que yo estuviera. Your parents, what did you tell that
Um, they,
they
they made sure I was at everything, like every church
okay,
event, every function, which made it easy because I was always making good decisions.
okay, okay. Y mis papás siempre se encargaron de que estuviera en todo, en todas las actividades de la iglesia, lo cual llevó a que tomara buenas decisiones o que no me equivocara. Okay.
And I would say I there were kids in the grades above me, and there were kids in my grade and kids in the grade below me, but there really aren't a lot of them, unfortunately, as far as the girls who stayed in the ministry and stayed in church. So I'll complete that one sec. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so you told, sorry, didn't listen so well. You said that there were children above and below your grade, but not many women stayed at the ministry, right?
Yes.
Okay. Y había jóvenes en niveles más altos que yo y niveles más bajos que yo, pero desafortunadamente pocas mujeres fueron las que se quedaron en el ministerio.
But because I had a consistent home, it just
Pero como
made.
tenía, ah, I'm sorry,
No, no, no,
pero
you're okay. Go ahead.
como tenía un hogar consistente, un hogar firme,
It made it it made it a lot easier for me to make good choices. And I eventually made it to a Christian college, and that's not because of me.
ok. Y como tenía un hogar firme, eso me hizo tomar buenas decisiones y guiarme. Y de hecho yo estudié en un colegio cristiano, pero eso no fue por mí.
It's because of the leaders I had in my life. I had a good pastor, good parents, and a great environment.
Fue porque por mis buenos líderes que Dios puso, por mis papás, por mi pastor, por el buen ambiente.
So that's basically my high school years.
Okay, great. So, as we can see, you did grow in a Christian environment, and in your case, it was a really great environment. So you keep going through whole school and then a Christian college, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
tell us, how did you choose your career and how was your college life? Let me say it in Spanish. Muy bien, entonces, pues vimos que nací, nació en un hogar cristiano, en un ambiente cristiano, pasó la escuela y estudió en un colegio cristiano. Pero cuéntenos cómo escogió su carrera y cómo fue su vida en el colegio.
Um, my mom was a teacher. I didn't mention that.
Ok, bueno, mi mamá era maestra, no mencioné eso, pero era maestra.
She was actually my teacher.
De hecho, ella era mi maestra.
She taught me art, and she also taught me Spanish.
Me enseñó arte y también me enseñó español.
Um, Backtracking a little bit to high school,
Regresando un poquito al high school, a la prepa,
she was always just such an amazing teacher. She really was.
ella simplemente era una increíble maestra, de verdad que ella lo era.
She always had the decorations so adorably, and like they were everywhere.
Ella siempre tenía decoraciones tan adorables y estaban en todas partes.
And she knew how to make every learning experience a Christian lesson.
Y ella sabía cómo hacer cualquier experiencia de aprendizaje una lección cristiana.
So she was honestly the reason I wanted to become a teacher.
Y ella fue honestamente la razón por la que yo me convertí en maestra.
I always knew I wanted to go to Providence once I hit ninth grade.
Yo siempre sabía que quería ir al colegio de Providence desde que estaba en noveno grado.
Um, so it was kind of just that once the Lord showed me it was the right decision, I knew that's what I was going to do. And teaching was the
Y,
option.
y pues las cosas se dieron así. Y una vez que Dios me dijo que sí, pues Providence siempre estaba en mi opción y la enseñanza era la única opción que tenía.
When I was in high school, there was that little transition time in between high school and college.
Cuando estaba en la preparatoria hubo esa pequeña transición de preparatoria a colegio.
And I did struggle a little bit with deciding that I wanted to become a teacher in a Christian school.
Y sí, batallé un poco en decidir que quería ser una maestra en escuelas cristianas.
Um, I wouldn't say I'm an amazing artist, but it is my passion.
Yo no diría que soy una increíble artista, pero es mi pasión.
And you know, when you're 17, sometimes you feel that, you hold the world in your hands.
Y bueno, cuando tienes 17 años, a veces llegas a pensar que el mundo está en tus manos.
And so I was told that, well, sorry, scratch that. I was starting to sell a few of my paintings.
Y yo estaba empezando a vender algunas de mis pinturas.
And, when you get an offer for a painting for hundreds of dollars, all of a sudden you're like, man, I'm good.
Y cuando obtienes una propuesta de tu pintura por $100, dices, oh, creo que soy buena.
And when I was actually at a store here getting one of my paintings framed for a competition, someone had told
Ah,
me that I probably could get a college grant.
wow. You were selling your paint?
So when I was getting my painting framed for a
Okay,
competition
okay.
here, someone told me,
Okay.
you probably could get a college grant.
Y cuando fui a enmarcar una de mis pinturas para una competencia, alguien me dijo, oye, podría ser que consigas una beca para estudiar esto.
And the devil kind of planted a seed in my head of, you know what, you probably could make it.
Y bueno, pues en mi caso, Satanás empezó a poner el pensamiento de, sabes, quizás sí lo puedes lograr.
But for anyone who knows about the secular world and art, it's very humanistic.
Pero si muchos no conocen el mundo secular del arte, es muy humanista.
And my parents and my church had given me this beautiful education for Christianity.
Y mis papás y mi iglesia me habían dado esta hermosa educación de la cristiandad.
And that was the first time I ever really felt, do I really want to go to a Christian college?
Y ese fue el momento, la primera vez en que pensé, realmente quiero ir a un colegio cristiano.
So it was actually at a youth conference. Um,
Y,
Go ahead. Sorry.
okay, y fue en una conferencia de jóvenes.
The pastor preached. I still remember the title because it was humorous.
Y el pastor predicó. De hecho, todavía me acuerdo del título porque fue lleno de humor.
He said, "It's no baloney. You need a zamboni."
I'm sorry, what?
It's no baloney. You need a zamboni. So baloney is like a
Okay,
type of meat. Like that's just, it's a phrase. Like it's no joke. You need a zamboni.
okay. Y le puso un, un nombre muy, muy interesante que es un modismo. eh, ok, pero habla como que no es broma que necesitas un Zamboni, right?
Yes, and a zamboni is something that cleans the ice. We have that in Illinois, lots of ice, and it cleans it makes it smooth.
Ok, y Zamboni es como una herramienta que ayuda con el hielo a volverlo liso. Entonces, so it's a really interesting title of the sermon.
Yes, it is. And
Okay,
so
okay.
basically, he was saying that, in your life, you need to get your life cleaned and you need to clean it
Ah,
up, just like the Zamboni cleans the ice.
okay, now all makes sense. Okay, La predicación trataba de que necesitamos limpiar nuestra vida, como el Zamboni es la herramienta para limpiar el hielo y volverla lisa de la misma manera con nuestras vidas. ¿Ok?
Yeah. And so I realized that I had been holding on to this lack of submission to what God wanted me to do.
Y me di cuenta que tenía falta de sumisión a lo que Dios quería que hiciera.
And I got it right, and I made a decision that I was going to go to college and I was going to love it and do a good job there.
Y después tomé la decisión de que iba a ir al colegio cristiano y que iba a tener un gran tiempo ahí, que iba a dar mi mejor esfuerzo.
Yeah. So
Ok,
then after that, I started college.
ok. Y bueno, después de eso inicié el colegio. Ok, wow, that's such a great, a great story of how God guides you to take the right decision. In your case, art wasn't the answer, it was teaching. Y bueno, esta es una de es una historia muy interesante de ver cómo Dios la guió para estudiar lo que tenía que hacer y en su caso no era arte, sino era enseñar. Bueno, y ahora nos podría contar un poco sobre su tiempo en el colegio, cómo fue. So now, could you tell us about your college experience, how it was?
Oh, it was very fun. I loved it. You get to be in a dorm room next to your friends.
Ok, fue una experiencia muy divertida. Yo la disfruté muchísimo. La amé. You said about your dorm, right?
Yes, you get to dorm with your friends.
Ok, tú, tú terminas siendo roomie con tus amigos, compartiendo dormitorio.
And you learn a lot. I learned a lot.
Y aprendes mucho. Yo aprendí mucho.
And I feel that a good Christian college is a safe environment for you to grow.
Y yo sé que un buen colegio cristiano es un ambiente seguro para crecer,
But also for you to just have Christianity for yourself.
pero también para que tú puedas vivir la cristiandad por ti mismo.
You're no longer living in a home where they're making you do certain things. It has to be your decision.
Ya no vives en un hogar en donde te hacen hacer las cosas, ahora es tu decisión.
I will say, when I was at college, I loved to have fun, good Christian fun.
Yo diría que cuando estuve en el colegio yo disfrutaba divertirme y tener diversión buena cristiana.
Um, I would go to a lot of the activities, and I just would go to the classes and learn, and that was kind of my schedule.
Yo iba a las actividades y también iba a las clases y aprendía y ese era más o menos mi horario. Okay. Okay, so it sounds like you did have a really great college experience. So
Mhm.
could you tell us maybe a special moment that you remember from college? Let me say it in Spanish. Bueno, se escucha que tuvo una linda experiencia en el colegio. ¿Podría compartirnos un momento especial durante su etapa en el colegio?
Um, when I was in college, we were given chapels. Sorry, did you catch that? When I was in college, we had chapels every day.
Ok, cuando yo estaba en el colegio, nosotros teníamos capillas todos los días.
And I've talked about my parents a lot on here, so you'll understand that I'm close to them.
Y yo les hablaba a mis papás mucho, podrían comprender que yo era muy cercana a ellos.
And one good thing my parents always did for me, this will connect. One good thing my parents always did for me was teach me to tell them the truth.
Ah, ok. Y una buena cosa que mis papás me enseñaron era decir la verdad, decirles la verdad.
And they did this in many different ways, but they did it in a way where it became familiar with me.
I'm sorry, what? I didn't understand that.
They did this in many different ways, but they did it in a way where it became natural to me, like to always tell them the truth.
Ok. Y lo hacían de diferentes maneras, pero bueno, al final resultó en que yo les decía a ellos la verdad siempre.
So my parents knew everything about me. They knew when something was off.
Y pues mis papás me conocían muy bien, entonces sabían cuando algo estaba extraño.
So there were some moments in my life when I was in college where I made not the best decisions.
Y hubo momentos en mi tiempo en el colegio en donde no hice las mejores decisiones.
And I was really struggling with just getting them right.
Y batallaba mucho en volver a corregir esas malas decisiones.
And I would make a decision to get it right. And then, you know, you come back to it and you're like, man, I'm in the same spot I started in.
Ah, y yo trataba de corregir y las malas decisiones que tomé, pero llegaba un punto en que decía, regresé al mismo lugar en donde estaba.
And during one of those chapels, which they had a lot of them and they were just so good, during one of those chapels, I decided I was going to get it right and get accountability this time.
Y yo decidí en una de estas capillas que yo iba a tomar la decisión correcta.
So I called my mom up and I was like, Mom, I just really want to do right. I just, I just really want to do right.
Ok, y le hablé a mi mamá y le dije, mamá, realmente quiero hacer lo correcto aquí, realmente quiero hacer lo correcto.
And it was like that point where it didn't seem as big as it is now, but it was a very important point in my life.
Y quizá no se vio tan grande como lo es ahora. Al revés, quizá lo vi muy grande y hoy en día ya no lo es, pero fue uno de los puntos más importantes de mi vida.
And that from then on, my mom has and I have just had this wonderful relationship to where she's helped guide me in so many spiritual decisions.
Y desde ahí mi mamá y yo tuvimos una gran relación en donde ella me guiaba para tomar decisiones espirituales.
And the funny thing is I thought she would be upset with me, but she just loved me and helped me.
Y la cosa divertida de aquí es que yo pensé que ella se iba a enojar conmigo, pero al contrario, ella me ayudó y me amó.
And I had a similar situation with my dad when I first started college too, and he showed me that same love.
Y tuve una situación parecida con mi papá cuando él también me mostró su amor.
When I graduated college, I didn't realize how much those college chapels meant to me. I missed them.
Cuando me gradué del colegio no me daba cuenta de todo lo que significaba esas capillas para mí y las extraño. Okay, so that was like your life during college. And can you tell us what happened after you finished college? Ah, bueno,
Oh,
esta fue su etapa durante el colegio y nos podría decir qué pasó después de que terminó.
I left out a major part of college. I totally forgot because it ties into after college.
So, we are going back to college, right?
Oh, well, it's like tied in. It's when I got hired during college and then I got hired after college. It's like the same thing, kind of
Okay,
connected. Skip over
okay.
graduation.
Que hubo una cosa que olvidé, algo importante, que fue cuando fui contratada mientras que estudiaba en el colegio y después de terminar el colegio también me contrataron. So, could you tell us a little bit of that story?
Yes. When I was in band, when I was in college, the band director, who was also the dean of men, asked me how I felt about Texas.
Ok. Cuando estaba en el colegio, el director de la banda me preguntó qué pensaba acerca de Texas.
Sorry, well, I it blurted out. It just came back in.
It's fine, don't worry. Uh, can you listen me properly?
I can hear you now.
Yes, okay. So you told me that the band leader asked you about Texas.
Yes, and I said, I think there's cactuses everywhere. That's all I know.
Y yo le contesté, creo que hay cactuses por todas partes, es todo lo que sé.
um, and so he told me that um, someone who we knew, Brother Don Raridan, was looking for a new teacher.
Y él me dijo que el hermano, I'm sorry, what was the name of the brother?
Don Raridan, like Don
Don,
Raridan.
okay, que el hermano Don Morgan estaba buscando a una maestra.
It wasn't the end of the year, but a teacher had left, so they needed a position filled now.
Okay. Todavía no terminaba el año, pero el maestro o la maestra se fue. Entonces necesitaban a alguien que lo reemplazara ya.
So I prayed about it and asked my pastor and gave him all the details I knew.
Entonces oré por eso y hablé con mi pastor y le di todos los detalles que yo sabía.
And then I met with Brother Don Raridan. I met with the man to see if he would accept me for the position.
Y después hablé con el hermano Don y para ver si él me aceptaba para ese puesto.
So I had only done a little bit of student teaching here. And so I did the rest of my student teaching in Texas when they hired me.
Wow. Entonces hice estudios en Providence, pero cuando fui a Texas continué con mis estudios, mientras que era maestra. So you were studying at the same time you were teaching, right?
Yes, it was lots of tears, lots of papers, lots of work, lots of tears.
Okay. Ok, bueno, entonces yo trabajé al mismo tiempo que estudiaba y fueron muchas lágrimas, mucho trabajo, muchos papeles, muchas lágrimas otra vez. Ok, ok,
And I was living with a family there, and the situation was interesting to say the least.
ok. Y you were with a family, right? You told me? I'm sorry, I didn't listen
No, it's
so
okay.
well.
I said I was living with a family there, and the
Yes.
situation was just not a very good situation as far as it it didn't work out very well.
Ok, y yo vivía con una familia, pero la situación de vivir con una familia no fue muy buena, no iba muy bien.
I didn't have any AC in my car, which is like hot for Texas. I know that's such a silly thing to complain about, but it was, I never really realized it. And they didn't give me a key to their house. So I was often like just like in La La Land, not knowing where to go.
Ok, y no tenía aire acondicionado en mi carro, lo cual puede ser algo tonto de quejarse, pero realmente yo no sabía cómo iba a estar. Tampoco me dieron llaves para la casa, entonces a veces estaba en la nada y no sabía a dónde ir.
And if I wasn't there for dinner, I wasn't eating. So it was just such a crazy, it was different than what I was used to, but it was a great experience.
Y si no llegaba para la cena, ya no iba a comer y fue simplemente una experiencia muy diferente a lo que estaba acostumbrada, pero fue una gran experiencia.
But my boss and his wife, they took such good care of me and they were like, we need to probably get you a different place to live. So they moved me in with a single mom and her kids.
Okey, pero mi jefe y su esposa que me cuidaban mucho, me dijeron que quizá tenían que moverme de lugar, así que me movieron a una familia en donde había una mamá soltera y sus hijos.
And I loved that family so much. They were such a blessing to me, and it was such a wonderful experience as well.
Mm. Y amé a esa familia, fue una experiencia tan bonita y de verdad disfruté mucho esa experiencia.
So after I was done with the year, it was kind of like only a half of a year that I worked with them. That's all they needed. They didn't know if they'd need me further.
Okay, so you only went like for the rest of the year, right? And
That
then,
originally, they said they would think about maybe later, but originally, let's just stick with this half of a year. We'll see how it goes.
okay, y bueno, yo nada más estaba pensado que solamente iba a ir por la mitad del año restante y dijeron que quizá después iban a pensar qué era lo que iba a suceder, pero terminó ese año.
And one thing I will always say is I was taught to pray before accepting any job, and this helped me a lot.
Y tengo que decir que yo fui muy firme en orar antes de que aceptara otro trabajo y que esto fue algo muy bueno.
So when I was done working with them for that semester, they said, we're not sure if we could hire you back on, but we'll call you.
Y cuando terminé de trabajar con ellos por el semestre, me dijeron, no estamos seguros qué es lo que va a suceder, pero te llamaremos.
Yeah. And the way that the college works is they put your name in like a pool almost for people to call you to let you know that to let them know that you want to be called to get a job.
Ok, y bueno, como lo hacen en el colegio, es que hay como una lista en donde ponen tu nombre para que sepan que tú quieres que te llamen para algún trabajo.
And I was starting to get a bunch of calls for people who wanted to hire me.
Y empecé a recibir muchas llamadas de personas que querían contratarme,
But I really wanted to go back and work with the boss, my boss and his wife, and the pastor and his wife there. I really wanted to be there.
pero realmente quería regresar a donde estaba mi jefe y su esposa y realmente quería regresar allá.
But I wasn't getting a call.
Pero no tenía ninguna respuesta, ninguna llamada.
So I prayed about all the other opportunities, and the Lord was just not letting me have peace about it.
Y oraba sobre las otras opciones, pero Dios no me dejaba tener paz sobre ellas.
And finally, they called me and asked me if I wanted to work with them.
Y finalmente me hablaron y me preguntaron si quería ir a trabajar con ellos.
And I still prayed about it, but I was really sure that that was the decision I was going to make.
Y aún así oré por ello, pero estaba muy segura, casi muy segura que esa iba a ser la decisión que iba a tomar.
And those were some of the most beautiful but hardest years of my life.
Y esos fueron unos de los años más bonitos, pero también más difíciles de mi vida.
Um, I already explained to you I came from such a great place. It wasn't necessarily like that there because they didn't have all the same opportunities I had had growing up.
You mean the kids, right? The kids didn't have the.
Just the environment was different.
Uh,
I came from a very structured place. If you know my church, they're very organized, they're very by the book, they're very structured, and this place wasn't that way.
ok. Yo venía de una iglesia que era muy estructurada, muy organizada, pero en donde yo estaba, el ambiente no era igual.
The church had been through a hurt through their previous pastor, so they had a new pastor who was a wonderful man of God.
Y en la iglesia habían cambiado de pastor y el pastor que estaba ahí también era un increíble hombre de Dios.
So the people were very guarded, and they also had the principal that I worked under was also a new principal as well, who was a wonderful principal.
Can you listen me? Right.
Yeah, no, I
Yes,
can.
right? Okay.
Yes.
Can you repeat it? I'm sorry.
Yes, absolutely, of course. Um, and they had also gotten a new principal as well. A lot of the old church people had left because of the situation that happened before. So they had a new principal and they were starting to start everything fresh. They were trying to make everything new and right.
Y por la situación que sucedió en la iglesia, mucha gente antigua que estaba en la iglesia se fue. Entonces tenía un nuevo director de la escuela, el cual era un increíble director de la escuela, y la iglesia empezó a tratar de empezar todo desde cero.
And I knew what a good Christian school was supposed to look like because I came from one. And my boss knew that too because he had already created one before in a different church.
Y yo sabía lo que una buena escuela cristiana se veía, cómo se veía, porque yo había estado en una. Y mi jefe también sabía porque él había hecho otra escuela cristiana antes.
So it was exciting because I got to work with him and make all these new changes for the better and be a part of that.
Y fue muy emocionante porque yo pude ser parte de estos nuevos cambios que se estaban haciendo.
But I was very lonely.
Pero era muy, muy solitaria.
I didn't know anyone but my boss and his wife.
Yo no conocía a nadie, solamente a mi jefe y a su esposa.
And I came from a place where I had lived there and went there to church, same school, my entire life.
Ok, y yo estaba en otro lugar en donde había estado ahí toda mi vida, la iglesia, la escuela, mi vida completa.
Everyone knew me since I was a baby.
Todo el mundo me conocía desde que era bebé.
So I had to make a lot of new friendships.
Entonces tuve que hacer muchas nuevas amistades.
And I was very naive to just how different people can be.
Y fui muy inocente en saber qué tan diferente las personas podían ser.
It shocked me how much a person could pretend to be your friend and then stab you in the back the next second.
Me sorprendió cómo las personas pretendían ser tus amigos y luego acuchillarte por la espalda.
I began to become very just absorbed with loneliness.
Y poco a poco me volví o empecé a volverme más inmersa en la soledad.
Um, I would make food for myself and I couldn't eat it.
Yo hacía comida para mí y no me la podía comer.
Um, I would find myself when I would normally be with family or friends sitting in my house alone.
Y cuando en otros momentos podía estar sentada con mi familia o mis amigos, en vez de eso estaba sentada en mi casa sola.
I didn't have, when I first moved there, I didn't think about it. No furniture.
Okay. I'm sorry, it glitched a little. What did you say?
When I first moved there, I didn't think about it, but I had no furniture.
Cuando al principio me mudé, no pensé en eso, pero tampoco tenía muebles.
And so my boss gave me a bed from his daughter. So I had a bed,
Y mi jefe me dio una cama que era de su hija, entonces ya tenía una cama.
and I found a table from the dumpster, and I used that as my table and couch.
So it was your table was also your couch?
Yes. They cut off the legs from it, so it was like short. So I didn't need any chairs because I could sit on the floor to eat from it.
Ok, y conseguí una mesa que también funcionaba como sillón porque las patas eran muy cortas, entonces yo podía sentarme y comer allí. Ok,
I was embarrassed to live near my house. No one would go in.
yo estaba un poco avergonzada de invitar a mí a personas porque nadie quería entrar.
Sorry.
So it
I
was, I'm sorry, I didn't listen.
no, it's okay. I got cut out. I said I was embarrassed to let anyone in my house because I had nothing in there.
Y bueno, me avergonzaba que alguien entrara a mi casa porque no tenía nada allí.
And the devil really started to attack my mind.
Y Satanás realmente empezó a atacar mi mente.
He made me just absorbed, like just couldn't get out of my mind how lonely I was.
Él hizo que me absorbiera, o sea, no podía dejar de pensar lo solitaria que era.
I'd be sitting there on my floor eating from my table couch, and I just couldn't eat. I would just go to bed, leave the food there. I couldn't eat.
Y yo estaba ahí sentada en mi mesa, que también era un sillón, y me hacía comida y me iba a dormir, no podía ni siquiera comer.
I lost so much weight. I lost probably like 50 pounds in like 2 months.
Y perdí muchísimo peso, perdí como 15 pounds, you said?
No, like 50,
50.
like
Wow.
50.
Y perdí como 50 libras en 2 meses.
Um, and people would ask me, "How are you losing weight? Are you eating? You don't look healthy."
Y las personas me preguntaban, ¿cómo estás perdiendo tanto peso? ¿Estás comiendo? No te ves saludable.
And I will say, I was trying to eat healthier, but that's because I couldn't afford a ton.
Y yo decía que estaba tratando de comer más sano, but you couldn't afford. I'm sorry,
Yeah, I
what did you
couldn't
say?
afford a lot of money. I mean, a lot of food, like a lot of stuff.
Pero pues yo no podía comprar tantas cosas ni tanta comida.
And I knew if I had called my parents in an instant, they would help me.
Y yo sabía que si yo llamaba a mis papás en un instante, ellos me iban a ayudar.
But I was stubborn.
Pero yo era necia.
And I honestly didn't really even realize a lot of things because I couldn't get out of my mind how lonely I was.
Y no me pude dar cuenta de muchas cosas porque realmente nada más estaba poniendo atención en qué tan sola estaba.
And there were two things that helped me out of that.
Y
One,
hubo dos cosas que me ayudaron a salir de ahí. La primera,
I just had to realize, okay, my pastor preached a message that was basically, if you want to serve God, serve Him and suck it up.
una de las cosas que mi pastor predicaba decía que si tú querías servir a Dios, what if you wanted to serve a God?
If you want to serve God, basically serve Him and stop complaining.
Ok. Decía que sirvieras a Dios y después que no te quejaras, que silencio.
And he said, don't serve God and be somewhere doing something that you're like, this is great. I'm going to serve God, but have a bad attitude about it.
Ok. Y decía que si ibas a servir a Dios, podías decir, sí, está bien, voy a servir a Dios, pero que no tuvieras una mala actitud sobre eso.
And I realized that I was not allowing myself to form friendships and to put myself out there because I always saw it as a temporary thing.
Y me di cuenta que yo no me estaba permitiendo tener amistades porque yo había visto esto simplemente como una cosa temporal.
I imagined my life differently than living alone in Texas at that time of life.
Yo me imaginé una cosa muy diferente que vivir en Texas en ese tiempo de mi vida.
I imagined myself married with kids like my mom was.
Yo me imaginaba casada y con hijos como mi mamá lo fue,
But that wasn't what God had for me. And I had to realize that He had given me a beautiful life.
pero eso no es lo que Dios tenía para mí y tuve que darme cuenta que Él tenía una vida hermosa para mí.
And even though it wasn't what I imagined, most of all of my discontentment came from me, not from Him.
Y aunque, what's it, even what?
Even though it wasn't what I had imagined it would be,
Ah,
all of my unhappiness came from myself, not from God.
y aunque no era lo que yo esperaba tener, eh, era hermoso y todos los descontentos y la infelicidad que yo tenía era por mí y no por Dios.
So I just decided I was going to stop feeling sorry for myself and I was going to be happy.
Y decidí que iba a parar de sentirme triste por mí misma y iba a empezar a sentirme feliz.
And I was going to stop allowing myself to think the thoughts. I was going to bring my thoughts into captivity.
Y iba a llevar mis pensamientos en cautiverio, no me iba a permitir pensar todos esos pensamientos que tenía.
I used to, my mom and my dad, when I would call them because I'd be lonely, they would tell me, you need to just get up and do something. Go do something. Go for a walk. Get out of the house.
Y mis papás siempre me decían, cuando yo les decía que me sentía sola, me decían, haz algo, ve a caminar, salte de la casa.
So they helped me by getting me a couple things, and I could go into that. They got me a TV so I could have noise, so I'd play music on it and stuff. And
Ellos me ayudaron con algunas cosas. Por ejemplo, me dieron una tele en donde podía escuchar ruido o poner música.
And they also got me, well, I got myself a dog.
Ok, y también me di un perro.
I determined I was going to make a life in the place that I was at.
Yo determiné que iba a ser una vida en el lugar en donde estaba en ese momento.
And then I stopped being selfish with my thoughts on focusing on myself all the time.
Y después dejé de ser egoísta y pensar solamente en mí todo el tiempo.
I stopped having pity for myself and decided I was just going to start thinking of others more.
Decidí que ya no iba a sentir pena por mí y que iba a empezar a pensar en los demás.
Things started getting so much better. People were buying me stuff. I bought myself a table with chairs.
Las cosas fueron mejorando muchísimo. Compré una mesa con sillas.
I had an actual couch that turned into a bed so it can double as like a guest bedroom.
Obtuve un sillón que se podía hacer cama para si había invitados se pudieran ahí dormir.
And I made beautiful friendships that just mean the world to me.
E hice amistades muy hermosas que significan muchísimo para mí.
Yes, and things ended in Texas not very well as far as another tragedy hit the church, which was really sad.
Y bueno, las cosas no terminaron muy bien en Texas porque hubo otra tragedia que enfrentó a la iglesia que fue muy triste,
But the church bounced back, and my pastor suggested I move home.
pero bueno, la iglesia se volvió a unir un poco y mi pastor me sugirió que regresara a casa.
And I was actually extremely sad to leave Texas.
Y ahora realmente estaba extremadamente triste de dejar Texas.
But if all the experiences I went through there, they taught me so much.
Pero todas las experiencias que viví allí, wow, me enseñaron tanto.
Um, God was just so good to me. I needed those experiences in my life.
Dios fue tan bueno conmigo, realmente necesitaba esas experiencias en mi vida.
And there are circumstances in my life that are different than other people, but God supplies all our needs.
Y hay circunstancias que son diferentes de otras personas, pero Dios proveyó lo que yo necesitaba.
And when we think of needs, sometimes I think sometimes we think of physical needs, like my couch or my table.
Cuando hablamos de necesidades, yo creo que a veces pensamos mucho en las necesidades físicas como una mesa o un sillón,
But in reality, those needs are spiritual needs as well. And those spiritual needs I had were met there in Texas.
¿ok? Pero también hay necesidades espirituales y esas necesidades espirituales Dios las concedió en Texas.
And it was the perfect teacher I needed, all the different things. And I only went into a few things. They were all just perfect teachers.
Y fueron excelentes maestras y todas las situaciones en las que yo pasé fueron excelentes maestros.
So,
Wow, that's that sounds great and that sounds also hard because it's difficult to learn from circumstances and maybe
mhm.
it's difficult to stop being selfish or stop thinking
Yeah.
about ourselves and our feelings, but thank you so much for sharing your story with us so we can learn from it and we can start doing so if it's the case. um bueno, es una historia triste y difícil porque es muy difícil dejar de pensar en nosotros mismos, pero muchas gracias por compartir su historia con nosotros para que pudiéramos aprender y empezar a hacerlo si es el caso. So now you came back to home and what happened next? Right now, what are you doing? Entonces
Um,
regresó a casa y ahora qué es lo que hace hoy en día.
I I was very, when I moved back from Texas, there had been a lot of spiritual hurts as far as my church that I was in Texas with. Um,
So I'm sorry, can you repeat it?
yeah, when I moved back from Texas, there was a lot of those last months that there was a lot of things that went on that spiritually hurt me.
Ok. Cuando regresé de Texas, en esos últimos meses hubo muchas cosas que me lastimaron espiritualmente.
And I knew I was in no place to accept. a teaching position just because I needed time.
Y yo sabía que no podía tomar ninguna posición o ningún puesto de maestra porque sabía que yo tenía que resolver.
But right when I moved home, I was getting job offers.
Pero justo cuando yo me mudé, ya estaba recibiendo propuestas de trabajo.
But I prayed about it, and God did not give me peace.
Pero oré sobre eso y Dios no me dio paz.
So I prayed and prayed, and God brought along the perfect job where I was a nanny for two precious kids.
Y yo oré y oré y Dios me dio un trabajo en donde yo fui niñera de dos niños hermosos.
And I loved that job, and it was the perfect recuperation that I needed.
Y yo amé ese trabajo y fue el perfecto trabajo de recuperación que necesitaba.
And there came a point when I knew my job was not going to be needed anymore, like the kids didn't need me anymore.
Y yo sabía, llegó un punto en donde sabía que mi trabajo ya no era necesario, que los niños ya no me iban a necesitar.
So I prayed again about what God would have me do.
Y oré otra vez para saber qué es lo que Dios quería que hiciera.
And He made it work perfectly for me to become the first and second grade teacher at the school I graduated from.
Y él hizo un trabajo muy increíble en volverme a mi maestra de primero y segundo grado en la escuela en donde yo estudié antes.
To understand the humor in that, though, I went to college for secondary education.
Para ver el humor de esta situación, yo fui al colegio para ser maestra de, I'm sorry, what grade?
Like for high school, for high
Ah,
school.
para ser maestra de preparatoria.
So I was like, I don't know about this, but God gave me perfect peace and
Y yo,
started.
y yo pensé, no estoy muy segura de esto, pero oré y Dios me dio paz.
And the first week, there were a lot of tears.
En la primera semana hubo muchas lágrimas,
But I was so grateful I had prayed about it because I knew that when there was the tears, I was where I was meant to be.
pero no importó porque yo sabía que aunque había lágrimas, ese era el lugar en donde debía de estar.
And I have learned so much, especially patience.
Y he aprendido mucho, en especial paciencia,
And I cannot imagine teaching any other grade.
y no puedo imaginar enseñar a otros grados.
It is truly what I'm meant to be, where I'm meant to be.
Y es realmente donde debo de estar por ahora.
And I will say I prayed about this job more than any other job. And I feel that I have gotten more fulfillment out of it because of that.
Y este ha sido uno de los trabajos por los que más he orado y me he sentido, es uno de los trabajos en donde me he sentido más llena en él.
Yes, a
Ah,
lot of pivotal points in my life happened around that age category too. So it makes it very relatable for me. I was saved at that age. I went through
mm,
other struggles at that age. So it's perfect.
hubo muchas cosas en mi vida que sucedieron a esa misma edad. Fui salva a ese tiempo y puntos críticos, entonces es perfecto. Me siento identificada. Es perfecto. Wow, that's such a great story. I mean, you have been living many adventures and you have learned a lot. And thank you so much for sharing with us that.
Of course, of course. Thank you for having me.
So before we finish this episode, I would want to ask you some questions. So I'm going to ask in Spanish and then in English, ¿ok? Ok,
Okay.
ahora vamos a hacer unas pequeñas preguntas para nuestra invitada de hoy. Si pudiera resumir su vida en una frase, ¿cuál sería? If you could resume your whole life till today, what in a phrase, what it will be.
If I could, what my whole life? Resume?
Resume your whole life, or you can, uh-huh,
In a phrase, like if I could, if, okay,
yes, like describe your whole life in a phrase.
okay. Um, Let me think. That's a good one. Oh, just the gift of teaching your kids to be Christians.
Que la respuesta es el regalo de enseñar a tus hijos para ser cristianos. Ok,
My life's so beautiful because of my parents and my pastor, not because of me.
mi vida es tan bonita por mis papás y por mi pastor, no por mí.
And I mean,
Ok,
it has flaws. We know it has flaws.
y tiene problemas, todo el mundo tiene problemas. Ok, it's right, and it's the truth, it's the truth. Um, okay. Can you listen me?
I can hear you now.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. You can hear me. Okay. So, can you give us an advice to if there is any teacher that is listening us? You are a teacher and you have experience. So, can you give us an advice that experience have gave to you?
Yes.
Let me ask it in Spanish. Bueno, usted es maestra, entonces si hay alguna maestra que nos esté escuchando, podría regalarnos algún consejo que su experiencia le haya dado.
I actually got this out of my devotions a while ago, and this has helped me a lot in my teaching experience.
¿Ok? De hecho, esto lo saqué de un devocional un tiempo atrás y me ha ayudado muchísimo en la enseñanza.
And it's actually about Solomon. A lot of people, when you refer to Solomon, you refer to his wisdom.
Y es de Salomón. Mucha gente cuando habla de Salomón se refiere a su sabiduría.
But in the Bible, it talks about how God didn't just give Solomon wisdom, but he gave him largeness of heart.
Pero la Biblia no solo habla de que Dios le dio sabiduría, but I'm sorry, what
He gave
he,
him largeness of heart. Largeness
ok,
of heart.
pero también le dio un corazón muy grande.
And just if you read Solomon and everything, all his writings, they're all about people, and you can tell he really loves people.
Y si tú lees sus escritos, te podrás dar cuenta que él habla mucho de la gente y de que realmente le importaba a la gente.
And I started to pray that God would give me largeness of heart, like more room to love people.
Y yo empecé a pedirle a Dios que me diera un corazón grande y más carga por la gente.
Um, when you love people and you love your children, those precious kids,
Cuando tú amas a la gente y amas a tus niños, esos eh, preciosos niños,
you'll make decisions for them, not for you.
tú tomas decisiones por ellos y no para ti.
Um, you'll stop you'll stop letting them get away with stuff because you want them to like you.
Tú dejas de hacer cosas para que les caigas bien a ellos.
You'll more use God's wisdom to guide them.
Tú empiezas a hacer eso para guiarlos.
And if you can get their heart and love them, you can teach them anything.
Y si tú tienes sus corazones en amor, entonces les puedes enseñar cualquier cosa.
And that starts with your heart.
Y todo eso empieza con tu corazón.
So pray for largeness of heart.
Entonces, ora por un corazón grande, un corazón que ame a la gente. Good. That's such a great advice. Thank you so much for that advice. Gracias, hermana, por ese consejo. So, now, is there something else that you want to say before we finish the episode?
Um, One thing I would just say is I didn't really get to talk a lot about being single, but I know that is a big thing for a lot of ladies. I'm
Okay.
older and I'm still single.
Okay. Bueno, antes de terminar el programa, me gustaría hablar sobre ser soltera. Sé que pues hay muchas personas que son solteras, aún siendo grandes.
But I just want to encourage all those ladies to realize that if you were meant to have, or let me phrase that, I want you to realize that if you being married was going to be better for you, God would have it happen.
Ok. Pero quiero animar a esas señoritas a darse cuenta que si fuera mejor para ti estar casada, Dios ya te hubiera dado el matrimonio.
And God loves you so much to where He wants you to have a beautiful life.
Y Dios te ama tanto que Él quiere que tú tengas una hermosa vida.
And He wants you to have a beautiful life. And with that comes the realization that He's put you where you're at to have a beautiful life.
Y ahí es cuando uno llega a darse cuenta que Él te puso en donde estás para que tú tengas una hermosa vida.
And no relationship in the world could substitute for a relationship with God.
Y ninguna relación en el mundo puede sustituir tu relación con Dios.
Whenever I find myself sad about being single,
Cuando yo estaba triste por ser soltera,
I find it's because I'm discontented with something in my life.
me di cuenta que era porque yo estaba descontenta con algo en mi vida.
It could be something so silly as my car not working.
Puede ser algo tan tonto como que mi carro no funcione.
If I was married, I'd have a beautiful house and a working car.
Si yo estuviera casada, tendría una hermosa casa y mi carro funcionaría.
But that's just not true. That's how the devil makes you feel.
Pero eso no es verdad. Eso es solo como Satanás te hace sentir.
God is faithful and just to supply all your needs.
Dios es tan fiel que va a proveer todas tus necesidades.
Godliness with contentment is great gain.
Wow. Can you repeat it?
Godliness with contentment is great gain.
Okay. Ok. Em, Ser compasivo más el contentamiento es una muy buena jugada.
So if ever you feel sad about that, you're basically being ungrateful for the beautiful life God's given you.
Y cuando tú te sientas triste acerca de eso, básicamente estás siendo desagradecida por lo que Dios te ha dado.
And I understand it's easier said than done.
Y sí, entiendo que es mucho más fácil decirlo que hacerlo.
I live it, I understand it, but He's the potter and you're the clay.
Y yo lo entiendo, yo lo viví, pero Él es el alfarero y tú el barro.
So that's just, I just wanted to put that out there for the single ladies.
Oh, thank you so much. Y bueno, eso nada más quería decirlo para las señoritas solteras. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much again for everything you have shared with us. I have learned a lot, and I'm sure that the people who were watching us also did. And thank you so much again. It's really interesting to see that a life can impact another life, and I'm
Praise
sure
the
that yours will do it. So thank you so
Lord.
much
Praise the
again.
Lord. Thank you.
Y bueno, hermana, muchas gracias por compartir un poco de su historia, de sus experiencias. He aprendido mucho y estoy segura que también las personas que nos vieron también aprendieron. Y bueno, es bien interesante cómo una vida puede impactar a otra y estoy segura que la suya no va a ser la excepción. Thank you so much again, and we hope to see you again in another time.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you so much again. Bye bye. Y bueno, este fue el episodio de hoy. Muchas gracias por quedarse hasta el final. Bueno, primeramente esto es para darle la honra y la gloria a Dios y también para que pasemos un buen rato, nos divirtamos, aprendamos, seamos animadas, retadas, etcétera. No se olviden de ver la repetición o si quieren ver más episodios, hacerlo a través de Hadas Devocionales. Y bueno, muchas gracias a todas las que comentaron y a las que compartieron y a las que reaccionaron. Nos vemos en la próxima transmisión aquí por Hadas Devocionales y espero tengan una linda tarde, mañana o noche. Nos vemos. Hasta luego.